بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته to all our viewers. Welcome to another discussion in amidst the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic as we call it now, and the issues we face as human beings every day. We've got to discuss things, and before we do, I just want to start off today actually with a dua, because we need to talk, we need to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dua is simple, and if you could read with me if you want as well. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Oh Allah, you are the one who is the pardoner and you live to pardon, so pardon me. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Shaykh Imran, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan akh al-aziz, akh al-kareem. Ya Mawlai, Rabban ma'akum inshallah, Rabban sahli bi hayatikum inshallah. I hope and I pray that all our brothers and sisters who are watching at this moment in time are within aman and ihsan inshallah. They are in a state of great tranquility, even in the times of trials and tribulations, as we find this with Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and with Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Akh al-aziz, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, good. It's a bit saddening, to be honest, because we're at the end of Ramadan. There's only a few days to go, and the feeling is a saddening feeling, like it's not a missed opportunity. I think, we've tried to make the most, and we still have time, alhamdulillah. It definitely feels like we're going to be losing something special, when this month finishes.
Akh al-aziz, this is the beauty of Ramadan. It comes with a gust and a storm of forgiveness and mercy. Every moment multiplied by 700 times. Wallahi, if you're not gonna miss a guest like this, there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? Because mashallah, it brings so much karam, so much fazl, so much mercy, so much blessing, right? And when he's gonna leave, naturally go, "Arey yaar, tu na jana, kudhar chale?" Do you know what I mean? And it is like that, wallahi. It's within the hadith of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam that the one who does not feel the loss of Ramadan, in reality, has not really achieved anything. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So the topic today, everyone, hope you're well. Please do comment, please do share the link with your friends and family to invite them to this discussion. Hopefully you'll all benefit, inshallah ta'ala. The topic we've entitled here is my life, but really could be talking about anything in this topic. And the one thing we mentioned was how we form our world views or things. Yes, can you hear me?
Sidi, it's like this. It's my life.
That's it. Yeah, it's my life.
It's my life.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Hey,
it's my life. Yeah.
You have no right.
And I will say that when we were discussing this for our viewers, I think yesterday, Shaykh Imran, may Allah bless him, he said, this is my life, and I was like, it's a good title. And then he did a little bit of a tune with "It's My Life," and some of you may understand.
That's not for the public.
That's why we have to share some things. But the funny thing was, I connected to that, and you noticed I connected. I said, this rings a bell, and we had this discussion, which I think can bring into our discussion today, is that we take things from around us, even we don't realize sometimes. And so many years later, you hear something, it reminds you of something 10, 15 years ago. So these things are conditioning us and making us who we are. So, it's my life, but really, you've been conditioned into this life. So when people say it's my life, well, you've got to think carefully about that statement. I think it's a very deep statement, to be honest, that maybe is misused as well,
No, I think our intention is, by saying this particular statement, is that we want to look at a particular stage in development, really. We're going to look at adolescents, teenagers, do you understand? Which is a transitional phase within the growth and development between childhood and adulthood. Do you understand? So that's what we're going to look at, inshallah ta'ala. Because I think one of the questions that was raised, I think 2 or 3 sessions ago, was that teenagers, how to work with them if one has missed out on the early stages of development. So that was one of the questions that was raised. And I think in this, because we were talking about the family unit, we talked about culture, we talked about Sharia and etc. I felt it was between ourselves when we discussed, I think it was important to at least bring this in, because this is a very difficult stage for a lot of us. Even for a lot of us who go through it, which we all do, all right, if you've gone beyond, if you come through it, and if you haven't, you are going to go through this particular stage, then of course, Akhil Aziz, that those who deal with it as third party, people who are going through this stage, they're like, what's going on here? It does make it difficult for them. So I think that was the intention through this, by saying it's my life, because usually it's a statement which is made by teenagers.
Yes.
Right? You have no right. Don't say this. Bang the door. I don't want to see you. Don't want to talk to you. Who do you think you are? Go to hell. It's my life. Sorry. I think I'm going through a transition period now. Alhamdulillah.
You never know. Flashbacks. One of the things that I just want to mention though is that when I was thinking about this, and we mentioned the topic and we thought about this, we've got to remember, I mentioned it just earlier, there's influences. So when we get these it's a reaction, really. It's a product really of our society, of who we are, and of all the Maulana, are you enjoying yourself there?
Sorry, I asked in advance. I'm having some jelly in this at this
Mashallah. That's very nice. Please do share.
Bismillah.
Mashallah.
Raspberry.
It looks
Raspberry.
nice, mashallah.
It is nice. Very nice. Tastes very nice.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, good. So anyway, the thing I was going to say is that, there's many influences. You've got these I got for you as well, okay? Because I had my speaker on last time and he was giving this feedback. And now I got this. I don't know how to put it in my ear. So sorry for this, a bit, of our thingy, but hopefully it's going to stay in now, right? It's there.
It's staying, inshallah.
Inshallah. So I was going back to what I was saying. So we were saying that, I was wanting to say that there's a lot of ideas out there. And we talked about this in one of our sessions, I think it was last session, about culture and education and how that impacts a person. Also, you talked about abuse and lack of love and the lack of, there's a vacuum, let's say. And all of these factors result in how a young person, and even towards adulthood and even later on in life, to be honest, it's a lifelong impact. A person thinks about life, thinks about other people, relationships, how they interact with others, how confident they are. And I think that when we look at life and people think it's my life, I think we've got to remember it is your life, but it is about sharing. It goes back to that family unit, it goes back to that culture, it goes back to everything. We're just not individuals to say it's my life. This word my, I don't even think, as you know, in our tradition, the Islamic tradition, our tradition of our spiritual masters and the pious folk, they said this word ana, me, I, it is haram. There's no such thing as ana. This is the ego, isn't it? So we can't just think of myself and I. We have to start thinking of the broader picture, and that includes everyone around us. And I think one of the things that we live in now, and we were having a discussion, I think a while ago now, when you were talking about some of the work you're doing, and you were saying how everything's this individualism. And this really, I resonated with this, and I really felt that there is, and everybody's about, because what is it? It's about getting likes on your Facebook page for young people today. It's about, how many followers you got. It's about, how nice pictures you can put up. It's become about the individual. And, you see people taking it into every phase of life that, if you're not going to promote me in this, then what's in it for me? It's like, okay, if you're not going to work, and this is even like you're talking about projects and people working here and working there, and everybody's trying to promote themselves and their thing. And then we were saying like, no, we need to work with everyone. We need to just look at the greater good. And I think this is linked to somewhat today to Is My Life, because young people go through this kind of, because it is about the individual, you see, because it is about you at the end of the day. It is about, what's inside, and it is about nurturing this. But I think we sometimes get the wrong sort of procedure or the, wrong understanding of how to do that. I think something we can discuss today is like, how can we get it right, basically,
But there are, Sidi Maulay, there's also, because what also needs to be understood is that the concept of I, right, from a spiritualist position, you're right to state what you have stated. But the I is also from a concept of when you know yourself, man arafa nafsahu kad arafa rabbahu. Right? Now, from a spiritualist position,
what does that mean? Can you explain that to our viewers?
The one who knows himself surely knows his Lord.
Subhanallah.
Right? And within the Quran,
which is not a hadith, it's a statement of some of the wise, right?
Yeah. Well, true. Yeah, sorry. I should have said that. Yeah, alhamdulillah. You're right. Now, but the statement it does make us reflect over something. That to really know your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to know yourself. Right? How do you know yourself? Look, the Quran al-Kareem teaches us about the inner self, tells us about the different stages of development, tells us about who we are as human beings, tells us about our relationship with our children and our elders and our youngsters and etc., etc., etc. Right? It tells us who you and I are. By informing us about that, giving us the so-called ideal, and none of us can ever achieve the ideal. We can always aspire to become. But through that process, we recognize who we are. And when you and I recognize the shortfalls within ourselves, then we understand the true magnitude or majesty of Rabbul Kainat. So from another concept, from another perspective, it is also important to know yourself. Because what it is of course, we want to discuss this from the perspective of adolescence. This transitional period, right? This period from childhood towards adulthood, which is very important, essential, because there is sudden change in your whole body, right? Your physiology, your psychology, your social interaction, your engagement, your behavior, your chemical state, etc. It changes. And then these words come out of your mouth, all right? It means something slightly different. Okay, so it's more to do with the state of that person at that time going through that transition than anything else. Because what we're looking at, CD, is from the ages, according to World Health Organization, they see it as adolescents are between 10 and 19. But they also have something called young people, which is between 10 and 24.
Is this the same World Health Organization that's talking about the coronavirus and everything?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So they're a health organization which deals with a different area, different aspects and elements of human health and human mental, physical development. That's what it is related to.
Right.
So Maulaya, a person's characteristics, okay, a person's characteristics are changing from what is typically considered childlike,
okay,
to what is typically considered adult-like. That's what adolescence is. Now, because we've talked about the family structure itself, right? The family unit, we've talked about certain influence and etc. We felt that it was important to at least touch on one of those developmentary stages, which is very difficult for the parent, guardian, as well as the individual who's going through that. Because what it is, Maulaya, as a parent, as a guardian, we must realize this, that this is a very ambiguous developmentary stage, adolescents or teenagers, yeah, in their own child's life. Emotional and physical changes, all right, feelings and desires are all over the place. So when they say, oh, it's my life, get out of my face, it's not really it's my life, get out of my face. It's merely about, oh my God, I'm going through so many changes and I'm going crazy, get out of my face. I need to deal with it. That's what this is.
No, we have to understand how everyone around us, we're going to be talking about this stage, but I think everyone, even the elders, the youngsters, it's all discovery, it's all learning. And I think we mentioned there is very, very crucial in this, that this is the most drastic changes that will occur during your lifetime or at this stage, both physiologically, both in the way you think, the maturity. And I think one of the things that we can probably discuss today is how that I think has become a lot more stretched out in the modern world. In the past there may be a shorter phase of transition, and in this modern world with the I was reading a book. I read a book a long time ago. Actually, read it all. It's called "The End of Education." The end, the goal or the end of it. It's like a play on the title on the word "end." Either the goal is the end of something, or it's finished.
Finally.
And it was by Neil Postman. I'm sure you've heard of the author Neil Postman and his work. Right? He wrote like decades ahead of his time. He wrote books in the 70s, 80s, I think. That today he's we'd be thinking, wow, what you hear of like Animal Farm and is it George Orwell and 19? He's like, I regard Neil Postman as one of these writers, and his books are really worth reading. And what he was saying was that, you see, education was an oral tradition first. There wasn't books, there wasn't writing, there wasn't no communication like this. So it was an oral tradition. And we used to learn by speaking and by communication, and this was education. And that led to maturity based on the amount of interaction you got. And you see young people maturing very early. And he actually mentioned a point in this book, I remember it quite clearly. He said, you will find pictures of little boys dressed as men in old English, like, artistry and all this kind of thing.
Yes.
And you find these little boys, these nice red long coats, and because they were treated as men back then. This is why they were dressed like this. It wasn't because they were dressing boys in men's clothes. It's because at that age, at that time, they felt that they were men, and they had matured at what physically you might think is, wait a minute, he's got a few years to go yet, but mentally, the psychological element was there. So they treated them as men, they had responsibilities, and they dressed like that. Because then what happened was the printing press came, and ideas were not spread merely by communication of the word, it was by books. And as education became towards books, the more you could read, the more you could discover. The more you could discover, the world became centered around this. So it changed the way that a person thought. And obviously the ideas in the books will have a massive impact as well, which is, of course, a big thing. And what he said was, everything became about the reading. So if you could read, it was enjoyment, it was entertainment, it was everything. Reading was the big, like we have technology today and screens. Reading a book was that back then. It was the be all and end all of entertainment and life and getting somewhere and, achieving literacy, books, having this. And then he started to talk about the technological age, the, computers, the screens, the TVs in his time. And he was saying that now we've moved away from an oral tradition, we've moved away from a literary tradition, written tradition, and now we don't know where we are. We're learning over these waves. It's not really an oral tradition. It's not really a written tradition. It's a weird tradition. What has it become? We don't know. And he goes, now what you see is the age of maturity and the development of a human being is getting slower and slower and slower, and now becoming longer and longer and longer. And it was a beautiful read, actually. I highly recommend this book. We really put things in perspective that the age we live in now, we see a 25, 30-year-old young man or woman, and they're behaving like, what in the past our elders would have taught like a 10-year-old. They're more concerned about where they go on their PlayStation game. No offense to anybody listening who plays PlayStation out there, but they're more concerned about that than they are about their spouse or their children. The priority is getting, this target in the game. I don't know what they do in these games, right? Fortnite and, Assassin's Creed. I've seen the adverts. I've not played them. I know you've tried them, Molai, right? So that's what I'm going to say. I'm saying that this whole is my life. Really, we've got to think of the influences, the education system, and the way we're learning today. Will ADHDs come about? Never heard of this before in the history of the world, right? All these kind of behavioral issues, which I think primarily about because you deal with them. You've worked with people, especially young people, with these issues. And I would say this is a new phenomenon. It's not something that we could relate back to something that we've got reference points to, right? It's something that it's become part of our society. People are autistic, people have got learning issues. It's developed, it's changed, and it's a direct impact of the world we live in. It's the direct impact of these influences of these technological so-called advancements. And now there's obviously conspiracy theories behind 5G and all this and the coronavirus and all that. It's quite funny. I don't know if it's should say that, but to me it's a bit of a fun. I don't really buy into any of that. I think we've got to get on with life. I think this is where the problem is. People get caught up in these things, and we just got to forget about the realities and the actual responsibilities we have to others. I think this is where we need to maybe discuss things today. Where do we need to get things right? What are the steps now for, first of all, identifying? I think we need to discuss that part first. I think that's where you've got primary first-hand experience, so we can take that forward and say, right, if today's issues are here, this is what I was in Oldham, social distancing included, and I met a person who works in a mental health hospital, for people, young people who have these issues. And he said, he goes, please, there was a few other people there, because please, as a personal request, don't take this the wrong way, but politely, the scholars, the teachers, the public speakers, Muslim scholars, etc., they need to speak more about this. I need more events, more talks, more awareness, because I see these people firsthand. And the place where I'm at, the particular, I don't know where he worked, but the institute he's at, institution, 40%, he said, of the young people coming in are Muslims, and they've got problems. And these problems, he said, are not just from nowhere, because people are cutting themselves, cutting their faces, their arms, and just burning themselves, and and more like, please talk. You know much more about this.
No, I don't know
what's going on out there.
What's going out there? No, Akhil Aziz, look, what needs to be understood is that people like me need support. This is what's important right now. I've had the opportunity, just like the individual that you're speaking about, I've had a similar opportunity to work in a setting which was to do with individuals who were in there for psychiatric purposes and reasons. I had gone in as an imam, as a chaplain, to support a number of Muslim inmate or Muslim patients, to understand, in that environment. But what the thing is that there are certain things which happen over time through initially certain things occurring within the adolescence or childhood, right? Which over time stifle development or impact the brain in a negative manner, right? This happens because of the type of interaction that has taken place, maybe when they were in the developmentary or transitional stage, which is in adolescence or within teenagers. Now, there's no doubt about this. The point that you made historically, even if there's a young person of 12, 13, 14 years old, that were treated like adults, and there was an engagement of adulthood and etc. And of course, as we know historically, all right, from the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim, the young Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim, as Zayd bin Haris radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Imam Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Sayyida Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and many numerous others who were of much young age, and they are the ones who had taken the deen forward and strengthened the essence of the deen, right? And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew this. It's not saying that the elders weren't important or significant. They were important and significant, all right? But the thing was, the ones that were going to take the flag forward, and at very young ages, they had done this. Look at this. Within the development stage, on this particular stage, look, individuals, all the research shows around that the teenagers themselves, they're dynamic, they're open-minded, they're hungry, they've got a hungry mind, all right? They are creative, brave, curious, all right? It has to be said this way. The only way to learn many of these skills, they will need to be strong. Now, because these individuals are in the transition, but they're going from child to adult. They have to deal with some really serious issues, right, in life. Breakups, heartbreak, trauma, death. They need to deal with, very extreme situations. So, of course, this is our aqidah. This is our belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. Then He also has created the stages in our existence, right? So this is a crucial stage of sudden change in the body, the physical state of that person, all right? The physiological state. You become stronger in that age. You become, your muscles become stronger, more layers of muscle. Your bones become more stronger at that age, right? Your particular type of chemicals in your body, they increase, right? Now, they increase because your hormones are increasing, okay? So your internal cognitive and your emotional development is happening at the same time, isn't it? Your awareness, the way you see the world, how your brain works, the way you process information now, all right? You're much more analytical in the way you deal with things. Now, these are all natural processes of the human self, which is happening in a very short period of time, which is literally happening within a period of 5-6 years, between 10 till about 14, 15, 16 years old. That's what this is happening. So there's a sudden jolt, all right, in development that's taking place. The sociological development, the way you see people, who your friend is, who your foe is, etc. And of course, the personality development. Your personality develops. Who you are as a person. Are you a recluse? Are you extrovert? Are you introvert type of person? Are you very engaging person, or are you a very disengaging person? What type of person are you? What type of personality do you hold? Right? These are, and it's all happening at one time. And the sad thing is, and I think what we are discussing is at a later period, what happens when people are in their 30s and 40s. Nature of where I work, one of the biggest issues I've got guys who are in the 34, 35, 36, 40 years old, but they're acting like teenagers. They're acting like just like teenagers, like you just said. There's a reason why that takes place, because there has not been a clear transition. And let me share something else with you. I don't know if you know this or not. You know, especially American prisons. American prisons were, when they were built on the model of nurseries and primary schools.
The prisons.
Yeah, the way the format of the prison is, right? The floors, the doors, the rooms, everything was done according. There's a number of prisons that have been done like that. Now, the reason why they've done it like that, because they found research, according to psychiatric research and etc., what they realized was that there was some source of stifling in development which took place at that age. Right? Wow. So what they wanted to do was get people in, do a rehabilitative, process on them, and then let them go out. So at least whatever they've lost in that period, they can fulfill and clear. Which, of course, in the case of America is a bit difficult because they're all about, lock them up and throw the key away. All right? The attitude towards incarceration is very different. Whereas the European model is a very good one. With the European model, they genuinely do that. They give responsibility to them. They give them the opportunity to look after themselves, even though they've done some horrific crimes. But they know as a human, they're still, we cannot stifle what they need to develop. Alhamdulillah, as a model, they've been very successful. So the process of people coming back into prison is much less in numbers.
No, very good point. When you were talking all about this, one of the things that I was just thinking, the 10 to 16, youth, development, how it impacts the later stages. And then you mentioned earlier this ideal there is, okay? I was thinking to myself, I'm a parent, I've been through this, there's no such thing as an ideal. We as parents sometimes feel helpless, right? Well, I got no idea what to do with my son, my daughter, right? We don't know how young men and women think in today's day and age. I think that, I was speaking to a brother and he said to me that, he does a bit of Islamic work, he tries to deal with people. And he goes, there's a whole world between you and I, he said, me as, a teacher, Islamic teacher, etc. And the student, he attends classes and he does this kind of stuff. And then he said, there's a whole world between me and the people out there. So he says there's two worlds between you and everyone out there. Now you're different. You're out in the world, so you're probably not next to these guys, right? So I said to him, I think you got a point, because if I was to be with those kind of people, I can understand. I'm that kind of person that can understand, but I don't necessarily know what to do. I don't necessarily know the way to deal with all those situations. I can, hold my ground and etc. And his point was that we are getting further and further apart. We don't realize it. We're losing track and where everyone is, young men, young women, young women and the problems they have now in terms of what they want to achieve and the family goals and their goals in life. And, especially for the ladies, they're just basically disregarded. They have no opinion, especially in certain cultures that we may be from or, close to. They have absolutely no, opinion. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You listen and that's it. That is going to stifle, like you said this word earlier, and that is going to really inhibit the development psychologically, spiritually, as a human being for anybody, not just a young lady, but for anybody. But we seem to feel or see this go on and nothing's done about it. Nobody cares about it. We don't want to empower people. We think that we are helping them, and in fact, we're actually damaging them. And I think this is something that we need to. You go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, see, I have a difficulty with the word damage.
I'm using very strong words, and you have a right to disagree.
Yeah, no, Allah give you barakah, Sidi. I have difficulty with the word damage because the thing is, as human beings, as individuals, we are a product of our experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we become is the final product of that. There might be lacking of something, right?
Yeah.
But Alhamdulillah, with the grace of God Almighty, because as humans we have this amazing ability, all right, to develop ourselves, to work on ourselves. I have worked with people who, Maulaya, I've had the opportunity to be around people who have been abused when they were young. I'm talking about sexual abuse. I'm talking about physical abuse. I'm talking about immense traumas in their life. People who have been, isolated in certain environments, etc., which has been really difficult for them to exist. Who've had abusive parents, who've had alcoholic parents, but they've come out to be something amazing, right? They have someone who have learned, who have taken, who have seized the moment, and they have chosen a particular path for themselves. They go, look, I still lapse in certain areas. I don't have everything at the moment in time, but but that acknowledgement is empowering.
Yes.
That I do have something, but I don't have something. I think sometimes, in our field, I'm going to be very blunt about this. We're very delusioned. We're in a state of delusion, really. Because we think, मैं ठीक हूँ, हमारा सब कुछ ठीक है, मेरे बहन भरा ठीक ना, मेरी माँ प्यो ठीक ना, मेरे बच्चे सारे ठीक ना, everything's fine. The truth of it is, Maulana, we are not that different to the person who we may see has been tampered with or hurt or harmed. Because let me share something. I remember, reading about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived amongst the people, right? 40 years of his life, which we fully know about, all right, before Ba'asat al-Nabuwa, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then in Medina Sharif, there's an account of a young woman who was a worker, who used to be like a slave in someone's house, and it is narrated that the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wa alihi wasallam, what she used to do? She used to complain to him. So she was someone that used to stop the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the street and just complain to him. And sometimes it used to be like a minute, he used to listen, 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Sometime an hour would pass. Oh, apne dil de dard jari no suna rahi hai.
MashaAllah.
Right? When I read this first, I was like, 1 minute, what's going on over here? What, subhanallah, we have this image about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't we? Which we have, let's get this straight, we have created for ourselves. Because we have a perception of what is a honorable, respectable person. We've created that. But the truth of the matter is, Rasulullah was not that far from the people who were harmed, who were hurt, who were abused, who were alcoholics, who were victims of who were adulterers, who were fornicators, who were murderers. Am I wrong to say that, Sidi?
No, you actually 100%. That's true.
True,
that's true, very true.
So in a way, I don't disagree with the brother who said, there's a distance between you and so and so and etc. That's a problem. If that distance exists, that's a problem. Because the thing is, that distance should not exist. By gaining knowledge, understanding what is right, wrong, good and bad, the idea is to help those. And how do you help them? From far.
No.
You help them by grabbing, sending your hand and go, Utho. Giron ko uthana bari baat hai. Giron ko uthana bari baat hai. Isn't it? So let me take this back again to and because I say this, and I think you're right to say that many times we don't know how to support someone. And let's talk about our teenagers. Our parents, one of the key things, and when I say to you, I'm saying it to myself, 100% wallahi. Look, I'm a qualified youth worker. I worked with youngsters for a long time, and Maulana told me as well. He goes, mashallah, he has some youth work under his belt as well. Allah give him barakah bi'iznillahi ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Which is good. Which is
a while ago.
Doesn't matter. Alhamdulillah, Allah give strength, inshallah. You've seen what type of engagement that's needed. That's what's important.
Yes, no. We've been
that's what's important. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, one of the first things is this: for parents to take themselves back into the place of their children, of their teenage children, themselves. I get it. You got to understand is the influences of today are very different. But you have to also understand there were also influences in our existence as well, which we regurgitate. And as a laugh, you said, I remember that, a lyric or whatever it was, but we regurgitate that information later on, right? Of course, it's much more hyper. It's more intense now because of all the type of, influences that we have and all the type of different stimulants that are around us. And because of that, our children, 24/7, it seems like that, they're going crazy. right? And of course, it has consequences, like you have mentioned. But what I'm saying is, as a parent, as a guardian, number one is to, I won't say empathize, but sympathize with your children, especially your teenagers. That's number one. If you do that, that's the first step of you walking a path of helping, supporting your young person. Look, let me share something with you.
Go ahead.
Ibn Sina, right, has done extensive work upon different stages of development. Okay, he talks about infancy, he talks about childhood, he talks about, a certain age of education and learning. And one of the stages is the first stage of teaching, education, which starts at the age of 10. No, sorry, they start at the age of 7 till 14, but he starts it from 10 till 14 and 15. Okay. Now, if you look at it, this is according to school, that's key stage 2 and 3. Now, key stage 2, it is. In key stage 2, what do you find? Your child is all about, he wants to please you. They make stuff for you. They'll create stuff for you. They want reward from you. That's key stage 2. Suddenly, they go into key stage 3. They start becoming teenagers. They're like, who are you? Now, but the thing is because the stage that it's in, because it's a sudden change, chemical change, physical change, mental change, emotional change, spiritual change, which we don't talk about. All right, realization: who am I? What am I? Why am I here? What is my existence? All right, and do remember the period that they're going through is a transition. It's a really difficult time. Suddenly, you're a teenage girl, all right? And before, you never had something that was happening in a month, and suddenly something happening in a month, you think, what the hell is this?
True.
Reality of the situation. Or you're a teenage boy, right? Suddenly, all right, you're a person who's going through all these emotions. I'm talking men and women, girls and boys, who are going through all these, feelings for the gender. You're like, what? When you were a kid, you didn't even think about this. Suddenly, what's going on? So the first stage is to give yourself the opportunity to be in the shoes of your own children, which should be very easy for us to do. But at the same time, to have a little bit of sympathy and feeling, because look, what needs to be understood is the society we live in, Akhil Aziz, understands this. That the teenage is a transition period. What you embed in that stage will retain and become part and parcel of the adulthood of that person. So if you look at it, see the music, the type of music, the type of movies, the type of products, right, which are targeted towards the teenagers. Okay.
Yes.
Now, it's amazing. You have to understand there are people who are thinking about this, who have done, psychological studies, who have invited psychologists.
I was reading about this, and they said in the what I read was they put certain things in the supermarket at certain levels for the kids. The kids see this, and I even read that they market the cars to the kids. The kid will say, "Dad, hey, gaddi, got that car. Dad, why don't we get that one?" The adverts, the jingles and all this, they market it not just to the person buying, but to the people around him or her, so that they all buy into this. This is very. I think this is a bit immoral, to be honest. That we're trying to just.
It is. I
suppose it's capitalism. I suppose it's consumerism that we live in.
No, what I'm saying, Akhil Aziz, is this. I don't disagree with you, but the problem is we've not understood that.
Yeah, we haven't.
I don't mean from their perspective.
We're a part of it.
No, I'm not saying from their perspective. I'm saying from our own perspective.
Our own perspective, we haven't.
Okay, look, if we understand this transition, look, let me share something very significant with you.
Okay.
I only say this because naturally the young people are going through hormones, right? There's a lot of outside influence as well. Friends, music, movies, hip hop, rap culture, what do you call it? Garage. Or I don't know what's the latest one. Forgive me, my youth. I have forgotten that. But anyway, that's what I know at the moment in time. But there's a number of different, and these are very influential because there are people. These are ways of relaying information, all right? And especially if you think about it, if you look at the adults of today, okay, they are the kids of the 60s and the 70s.
They are, yeah,
and the 80s. That's who they are.
What the kids were doing then, that's what they were doing.
that we're doing. So whatever we have, like I'll give you simple example. You know, we talk about the Simpsons, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, we are the Simpsons generation.
I never watched Simpsons in my life. Actually, I have once or twice, but I don't know what it's
Yeah,
about.
okay. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep protecting us. No, what I'm saying is, we are the Simpson generation because that's when it developed and started. Matt Groening
Yeah.
created it. All right, this young child who speaks in a particular way to his father, he has particular relationship
yeah,
with
I've
his
seen
mother,
that. Yeah,
with
yeah,
his
I've seen a few
daughter, with
episodes.
his sister, you know, all of this and etc. But what I'm saying is, it was embedded at a particular time, right?
Mhm.
Now it has influence, it has impact. Look, I'll tell you something about what Ibn Sina says at this particular stage, which I think is important to look at, because we think, right, that it's only certain modern psychologists and etc. who've discovered. I'm going back 1,000 years. In his book Al-Qanun, he says this, right? And one of the key things he staged at this stage of development, right? He goes, there's a specialized education stage, right? So
Right.
just before that, which is from 10 to 14, Sidi Maulai, it's about what? It's about education, learning, give them knowledge, give them information, give them right and wrong, give them good and bad, teach them poetry, teach them Quran, teach them devotion, ethics, manners, geography, history. Why do you think our education is like that? Because they've understood that. You know, John Piaget and people like him have looked at this very, very carefully. Now, this is not alien to us Muslims. It shouldn't be. Because it's what I'm telling you is a direct quote from Ibn Sina himself. I haven't even touched on the adolescence of the Prophet ﷺ. I am going to touch on that. Inshallah, give me tawfiq bi'iznillahi ta'ala. I'm going to show you how this has been taken directly from the life of the Prophet ﷺ.
You're right. You know, when you're saying that, I think of also Ibn Khaldun, because you know we talked about him before, being the sociologist, and he talked about how empires rise and come to power and the developments, and talks about education and so forth. One of the things I remember he mentions linked to this as well, to do with education, he says that to be cultured, which was probably last time's topic, but to be learned, to be what we would say well read, and you know, confident and
well
part of your
experienced.
society. Yes,
well
he said
experienced,
you need to
well
know
learned.
something. Yeah, he said you need to know something about everything. I need to know everything about something.
No.
So you need to have a good broad reading knowledge base, and then you also need to specialize. And I think you see this in the education system today. You have your school, your college, your early years of education. And what do? University, you specialize. Islamic, you said it, takhasus. Islamic studies, the exact same thing. You study astronomy, maths, English, language. It was English, Arabic, grammar. Astronomy, geometry. You study these things. They actually was very practical things that they studied. And then you would do what? Takhasus. You want to be specialist in hadith, specialist in astronomy. There were great astronomers from the Muslims, and they made many great discoveries and instruments. But what I'm trying to say here is that cultivation, that education, and although it's in the system, what you're saying, I can't see it actually being given to the people out there. I don't think it's
the
reaching
question
them.
then is,
the system isn't working.
No, Maulana, look. It's more to do our communities. It's to do with our attitude towards education, right? And learning. Look, what Ibn Sina says, and I'm only concentrating on this because he is one of the, and I'm not, this is from UNESCO themselves. He's seen as one of those individuals, right, who is revolutionary in this field, all right, of education and learning and development, right? He says about this stage of the teenager. What I'm going to say now, this may shock a lot of people. Number one, he says that when a young person gets to 14, 15, give them a choice. If they want to pursue education or they want to go into vocation. Now, this exists in our education system now, which has come into existence in the last 10 or 15 years in education as well. But this is also important in our homes, in the way our parents are, the way elders are, youngsters are, right? Now, let me share something with you. Look what he says. Look at this quote. I'm quoting him directly. He insists that young people should not have any kind of study or work forced on them that does not correspond to their abilities and inclinations.
Yes,
What?
That's the system collapsed. There you go.
No, that's not. No, I'm saying
we force it on the kids. You know,
there
I
you
force
said
it on
Now-
my kids. You know,
Yeah,
I like.
there.
Why can't you do it? Why can't you do it? Get it done.
Yes. That's what we need to. This is the problem. Our deen, our scholars, our ulama, historically understood this. Look, I got so I so got engrossed into this. I wanted to understand how does it practically work. Okay,
Yeah.
I looked into the Ottomani education system.
Okay.
The Ottoman education system was based upon these ideas, right? It was amazing and revolutionary. The West would go and study with them. Okay, now let me share something with you.
Just to clarify.
Yeah,
just to clarify, I'm going to put a question up here from one of our viewers. He says, as you can see there, what are you saying here, Shaykh Imran? Are you saying that don't teach children before the age of 10? Or what do you mean teach kids between 10 and 14 when you're quoting Ibn Sina? What was your point here? Could you just clarify for the
point is this. Academia, rules, regulation, right, wrong, good, bad, halal, haram, all right, qawaneen, all right, the tools of how to process knowledge is taught from the age 10 upwards or 7 upwards, according to call of Imam Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. It's between, it's from key stage 2 upwards, right? Education's been happening from the day your child came into existence. Because we forget there's something called play learning.
Kindergarten.
Yeah, play learning. Imam Ali radiallahu ta'ala said this. Play with your children. What does play do? It creates physical development. It creates cognitive development. It creates a sense of, vision, sense of approach.
Spatial
awareness. How far something is, how close something is in your child. But this is in the first 7 to 8 years of development. Education, dear beloved listeners and viewers, if I may put it like this here, education's been happening from the day your child came into existence. But it's not daraba nasara fataha zalika nafa. It's not that. It's not daraba darban for daribun wa darbi darban zaka madrubun. You know what I mean?
Learning,
nothing like no rote learning or this type of learning. This type of learning is also important. Pare yaad karna, your timetable.
Yeah, of course.
You need to know that.
There's a time for everything.
Yeah, the intricacies of language. You need to learn that. But look, a child speaks nearly a full language at the age of 4.
Yes, subhanAllah. They can talk for the world.
1 minute. Which Shaykh taught him that? It could be Arabic, it could be English, it could be Urdu, it could be Punjabi, it could be English, it could be French, it could be German. A kid speaking at age of 4. Turkish, a kid at age of 4. Learning from you.
Yeah, learning from you. They learned all that. It wasn't, just random. It was learning. It was development.
That's what I'm saying. Now, what they are saying is a nominal sentence, or is it a verbal sentence, right? Is it sifa mawsuf, right? Is it mudaf ilayh? Is taught at a later stage because the brain cannot process that information at an early stage. It can only process after 7, 8, 9 years old.
True.
Okay, that's where education comes from. That type of education. So my Akhil Aziz, the brother that is putting this question forward, this is what is meant by education. We're talking about the process of teaching the intricacies of language, intricacies of rules and regulations, of engagement, of tafsir, of Quran, of hadith, and things like this are taught about. And what are you teaching them? You're teaching them the tools. Because the truth is this, knowledge cannot fully, completely be absorbed. Even if we had 50 lifetimes, we learn the tools. Look, sarf al-nahv, fasah balagha ma'ani, what we studied in language. These are the tools of how to take and coin words to create a language. Isn't it?
It's true, Hazrat. So, just to thank our viewers for tuning in, and I know that you'll have questions, so do ask, do share this with us, and for their benefit, Shaykh Imran, and for our benefit as well, so that we can maybe move forward on this talk, because I'm out of time as well. So this 10 to 14 stage is crucial for education. What about this, maturity development? We talk about adolescence being. So by the way, adolescence, where did this come from? Because in the Islamic tradition that I know and I've always studied, it says that a child has to pray at the age of 14, becomes adult, baligh, becomes mukallaf, we say, yes. Responsible, pubescent, that this can get married, can have a life, and it's just a transition in a moment almost, it sounds like, right? Which it probably is, but there doesn't seem to be this long drawn out thing in the Islamic tradition of not of education, of learning and development, but of the responsibility falling upon the young man's shoulders. Of course, we need to prepare them for that, but it seems like the transition, in terms of the ruling at least, is almost instant. There's no need for a time lapse.
No, Molana, but there is a time lapse.
Of course there is. I'm just saying that it's a very small time lapse.
No, it seems like that. But think about it. From the day your child has been born, you're obligated to, create an environment of nurturing, development.
Yes.
Right? So in reality, you've got 15 years to do it.
That's right. So 15 years, not a small gap anymore, is it?
No, 15 years to do it. Our problem is, we start thinking about our child when they're 15. मोरे की शर्म नहीं छनी मारी गल नहीं बुझना मैं उसने अब्बा लगना हुआ ना मोला या उसने मैं उसने अब्बा लगना हुआ ना तब मारी गल नहीं बुझना.
And
Mari bachi.
I speak to brothers, honestly, on this point. I speak to brothers, and with the girls, they're okay. By the way, just to let you know, when the girl messes around, just to let everyone know here, the brothers I speak to, their fathers are soft and kind and let them get away. Boy, when it comes to the boy, they will kill that boy. It seems like the way they talk, they're not allowing him to move a little finger if it's a mistake. And if he does, he's got to apologize, he's got to come, he's got to repeat it, he's got to do it again. And they become like, militant with the boys, And I've seen it, I've seen this firsthand, and I've spoken to brothers, and they actually regret it. They talk about it in a very remorseful way as well, because they realize it's wrong. I mean, you can't really justify that attitude with a 15-year-old who's your son, who you've nurtured, and now you've got some issues, you just go hammer and fist. It's not the way to deal with the issues. But this is the big reaction that men have. And
our children, Maulaya, our children are the product of our environment. Now, do remember the outside environment, the TV, the radio, the this and that is also part of that. And do understand this, a lot of youngsters have certain type of traumas in their life, which we don't talk about.
We don't.
Now, imagine, like, for example, that experience that you've just given me. I've got an experience of a young man. Wallahi, I sat with him 3 days ago. I mentioned this to my wife as well. Because when I was sitting with him, brought tears to my eyes. He's only 20 years old, Sidi. 20 years old. Right? He goes, Imam Saab, for the last 4.5, 5 years, I've done everything underneath the sun, which is haram. This is a young man. He's only 20. He's been given, Allah maaf kare, a sentence for nearly 9 years for something that he has done. He suddenly goes, Imam Sahib, you know where he started? I go, where? He goes, I went to masjid. My staji, he was, I think, about 13. He goes, I was 13, 12 or 13 at the time. My staji beat the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Now check this out. Beat the hell out of me. Right. He goes, what I used to do, I used to go from home, tell my mom, but I used to turn up someone else.
Yeah, he wants to avoid the beating and he doesn't like the guy that beat him up.
100%.
Why would you go and sit in his company?
And Maulaya, let me share something with you. Wallahi, Allah forgive me if I mention a statement now which is a lie. Allah forgive me and Allah count me for this. He's not the first person who said this to me, Maulaya. Now, these guys have turned up in prison environments, in high security, kate prisons.
Wow.
These bache at Bachiya City are our kids. They're our kids. Now, he's a 20-year-old young man. Now, we forget that bit. What happened in his teenage, which has hit him. And you know, he said to me, he goes, the only reason I came back is I came in prison. I met some brothers, right, who were kind to me. Now listen to this. Who were kind to me. And they used to say, yeah, come and sit down and eat food with us. Yeah, do you know the Quran? Yeah, do you know how to pray Salah? He goes, I had completely removed myself from all of this. Maulaya, there's a reason why on a personal level I went down this route of trying to understand the different developmental stages, how people are impacted, what happened, why people do what they do. It became personal, Maulaya. You know, when you listen to stories, when you listen to people's real life, you think, man, I live in a bloody bubble. That's real. I'm a fake. I am fake. They have real lives. Maulaya, look at this. Let me share something with you. Or our children, they get tempted, all right? They are influenced by certain things. And the Prophet ﷺ was 14, 15 years old. It is accounted, this is narrated about him. He says, I used to work for people to look after the sheep, and I used to get food for it. All right?
Yeah.
And Prophet ﷺ had a very, poor upbringing in the sense of wealth and money. Okay? Now, he used to work for that. How old was he? 14, 15. In fact, it's narrated that he started to do that at the age of 9 and 10. Okay? So this sense of, the sense of work ethics, right, was embedded in the Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Okay? Now, let's look at this from a developmentary position. For a second, take yourself out of that. He's the Prophet of Allah. He's protected by Allah. He is cherished by Allah. All of that. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to get him ready for Nabuwah. Take that onto one side. And let's look at just from the developmentary position. Work ethic. Taking people's sheep and responsibility. Okay? Now check this out. The Prophet ﷺ, talk about temptations of life. The Prophet ﷺ was the age of 14 or 15. This is accounted within the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? It is said that the Prophet ﷺ, he knew there were different things that, because he had distanced himself from Makkah to Mukarramah, society of Makkah. He wanted to know what was happening in Makkah to Mukarramah. So he goes that one of my friends, you would say, or person he used to do the this work with, he said to him, today you look after the sheep. I want to go into the city. I want to go into the city. I want to go into Makkah al-Mukarramah. So he does. So as he gets closer to Makkah al-Mukarramah, he hears this sound which he's never heard before. And he asks people, he goes, what is this sound? Right? They go, this is a wedding that's taking place. This is Sahih. Listen to this. It's a wedding taking place. The Prophet ﷺ quotes that I went there. He goes, I went there, but as I sat down, I fell asleep. I woke up the next day with the sun piercing my face. And he said this happened to me 2 or 3 times. After that, whenever I would be inclined towards something like that, something would happen where I would get deterred or moved. So all these 2 or 3 times when Rasulullah fell to sleep, that was Allah's command to make him go to sleep. So he didn't have to hear or be part of that, what was going on. But what I'm trying to say is, Rasulullah went down that route. He went to try to find out, inquisitive.
Yes.
He wanted to know what it was. This is very natural. Your young children, your teenagers, your children are inquisitive. They are in a developmentary stage. They're in a stage of transition. They want to know what's what, what's not. Why are you doing this? Why are you saying this? You don't go to masjid yourself.
The question here now, right? I totally agree with you on what you said there, and I think it's such a valid point as well. The thing now that just the question that strikes me is, okay, they're inquisitive. And I've got an 11-year-old boy, right? And they're inquisitive, you're right, about different things now they're 11, and probably different things when they get older. And when they're younger, they're more inquisitive about games and stuff. But okay, they're inquisitive now. They want to do these things. As they get older, they want to go with their friends. They want to go with their mates. They got an opportunity. Like you just said, the Prophet ﷺ, what do they do at parties, basically? Like, people get invited to parties, school parties, your friends, the mates. We have co-ed, right? Boys and girls. So they want to go. They want to see one of these parties. What now does a parent do who has to deal with this? They know that at the party that this child might be exposed to drugs, might be exposed to the opposite gender in a very inappropriate way, etc., etc., etc. What do you do? You bring the hammer and fist, what please, what do we do right now? This is
you create a relationship.
Okay.
Look, Ibn
Sina, you can say something controversial if you want. You can say something. No. Say what you want to say.
No. I'm not scared. Alhamdulillah, you must have realized that by now. I don't have that attitude.
You don't have that.
I'm very straightforward about these things, because you have to be. If you're not blunt, if you're not clear, all right, people will not engage with you. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, you have to.
I'm being very straightforward. Bismillah. So it is very clear. Look, what our method is, danda maros.
Exactly. Bang.
That's not going to help. That's going to run away. The person's going to run away. The fear factor happens at an earlier stage. That hasn't happened. They're
not scared anymore.
Now your child doesn't have that sense. Okay. Or if you continuously beat your child, it becomes immunity. There's a sense of immunity. They don't care anymore. All right. It means nothing to them. There's no fear. There's no nothing. Right. You need to create a relationship with your child. Your child is becoming an adult. They need your support. You need to become an advisor. Don't become a bystander. Don't become the other person. You try your best. Look, let me share something with you. Just try your best. If your child, look, I'm going to be blunt with you, right? Alhamdulillah, subhanahu has bestowed me with children, etc. Alhamdulillah. On my part, I will try my utmost to put down what has been asked from me. But let me share something with you. I also expect this. My child to turn away and walk off. I do expect that.
Yeah.
Why? Because I know when the development stage is saying they need to have their space to discover themselves. That's the hukam. From 14 to 21, what's the ruling? The ruling is your advisory role now. If you have done the work, or whatever work you've done, it will show in your child. Right? Don't become a zalim now in that situation. Don't become oppressive over them, because it's going to push your children away, man. It's going to push them. And guess what? Let me just say this. It's going to push them towards people that are not safe, not nice people. Because do you remember when a child wants love, when they want affection, when they want someone to listen to them, right? They're going to find people. Look, I worked in sectors around, I'm trying to understand how a gang works, gang mentality, okay? Gang and groups.
Maulana, can I ask you a question? Have you seen that film about gangs in London? I forgot what it's called.
Yes.
Blue something. What is it called? Blue.
Yeah, I don't know the name of the finger, but I remember. See, are there any questions as well after the statement?
It's very recent. And I've not watched it, by the way, guys. I just heard about it and stuff. Yeah, I don't watch these films.
Well, there's nothing wrong with saying I watched it.
Yeah, it came up on my YouTube. There was this like gangs in Lewisham and something in London. Yeah. And basically two best friends, they fall out with each other. And the brother, the dad's not at home. So the older brother influences one of the boys. He says, they're from a different area. Why are you going around with them? They have a little fallout. He gets injured. And all of a sudden, they're killing each other. And he ends up killing him, by the way, right? He ends up killing his best mate, burning him up or something like that. I think, and that was like a part of a guy who got out of gangs. And this is talking about his life and things he witnessed and how, he became a youth worker, I think, in the end of it. But my point here is from that is there's negative influences. And we had this before, the toxic negative influences. And you just mentioned it again. How do we really, are you saying that, look, we need to keep these people away and, block them off, paint, brick walls? Or do we rather train our young people up to be able to understand this person, or can they understand this person's actually not in doing things in their best interest? How would you, because this is the thing right now. We're not going to be with children or young people, not children, 15-year-olds, 24/7. We can't be with them 24/7. And like you said, they're going to walk away. They're going to be free. They're going to be with these people at one stage. I remember at school there were people walking around selling stuff, right? We could have gone and found out what they were selling. We could have bought something. Alhamdulillah, never happened.
We didn't.
But yeah, we didn't. So I just feel protected. I don't know what my dad did or what I did or what happened.
Trust
it didn't happen.
your children.
Yeah.
Look, they're gonna make mistakes. That's part of their development, yaar.
Okay.
No parents is park and soft. Tell me one parent is park and soft.
True, everyone's got shortcomings.
Nobody is
perfect.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've made our mistakes, right? We've made our mistakes. Yeah. We've done our wrong, right? The same thing happens regarding our children. Now, we need to do our bit for our children. The first thing is our relationship with them. For example, if you've not done anything till they're teenagers, then at least get to this point. You've not really done the work, but that doesn't mean you have to lose your child. You don't have to lose your child. You just start to understand them. Because guess what? They're still in the transition period, right? They're still in the transition period. They still have, opportunity to reflect, to think, ponder. But your role has to change as a parent.
Yeah. Okay.
That has to change. You don't have to be pressureful. Just back off slightly. Give them this space, and then in the same sense, communication. What's been happening with you? Are you okay? What's going on? Blah 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 blah. Right?
More relaxed communication. I mean, treat them like adults. Treat them like, you're not like a kid anymore. You're let's talk, basically, friendship, right? Yeah. More on this level. There is a question here. We'll because we're getting towards the end of the show. We'll answer some of the questions. I think it's a very good question. It says, what advice do you give to families who go through trauma? I think this is a very good question. What, Shaykh Imran, when traumas, like I use the word damaging, which, it's fair, I think, but you can have your opinion. I don't care. You can differ. It's a part of life. But it can really hurt people, and then the recovery process, healing. I think there was a comment earlier as well by Sister Amina. It says trauma causes damage, brokenness. So she agrees with me. It's so somebody differs with you, Shaykh. Just remember that. They don't all agree with you. You know that. It's empowering.
I'm not here to be agreed. Not agree. There's no such thing as them and us.
With you. It's empowering to be able to heal and more forward, but extremely important that pain isn't sugarcoated. I think that's a good point, especially women's issues. I think that is something I think is a big topic there as well. But how would you advise this question? What would your advice be, Maulai?
I think regarding trauma, of any type of trauma, and do remember there's not one reason why a particular type of trauma takes place. All right, there could be physical reason, mental, psychological reason, interactional reasons, and particular abuses and etc. Take that there's someone who holds on to something. Even sometimes not forgiving someone is traumatic for the individual who's going through that process. Firstly, to acknowledge there is a problem. That's first step of rehabilitation, and acknowledge the problem. Number two is don't just sweep it underneath the carpet type of thing. Acknowledge it exists, and etc. Number two, take professional help. Professional help doesn't mean we've got Maulana Sahab hai na, unna ko jawange te dua kara lowange. No. That's important. Do that anyway. That's important. But with that, you need dua and dawa. Dua and dawa.
What's dua and what's dawa? Can you explain?
Dua is supplication. Dawa is medicine.
Treatment. Yeah.
Treatment. Right. So you need treatment. You need counseling. You need professional intervention with you. Right. Last time I remember I spoke to you about, very briefly talk, but I think that's something I will share with other people as well at a later period, about forgiveness therapy. Okay, there's a whole process around that. Yeah.
And I've seen that where the victim actually helps the offender recover.
Correct.
Because they forgive them, they embrace them, they say, look, let's get on with life. That helps the actual, my ear thing is gone, but it's okay. That helps the actual perpetrator of the crime to actually get on with their lives as well. So right. I think this forgiveness therapy is important.
Yeah. So taking help and support for that is highly important around any type of trauma. Within our communities, we have this stigma अगर मैं किसी को अपनी गल सुना देती, if I told someone about my inner state and etc., right, they're going to say, this guy's a loony, or it's going to shed negative light on my family, because it might be a physical abuse issue, it might be a sexual abuse issue, it might be a mental abuse issue, it might be a neglect issue, which always is somehow related to a third person. So sometimes that third person is a family member, right? In fact, majority of the time is a family member. So some of the victims who are going through that particular trauma or that state of abuse that they're going through, sometimes they feel that, oh, this is gonna be dishonorable. All right. Let me share something with you. When it comes down to help and support, everything is done confidentially. It's confidentiality. This is part and parcel of the law. Nothing will happen to the third or fourth person through a legal process. The system doesn't work like that. They're going to help you. They're going to support you for your abuse. If within that process, some information, etc., comes out, if you don't want to take it to become legal, no steps will be taken, because no third person can take any person through a court process. They can't do that. It's in the hands of the victim to do that.
Victim and the perpetrator, between them.
That's right. That's victim, perpetrator, nobody else.
And if you are a victim, you have a right to take them to the
100%. But sometimes people feel we can't because of cultural pressures and family pressures and whatever it is. So that's another thing within in the whole realm of trauma that needs to be understood. That you need to remove that that worry and concern from yourself to help yourself. Because ultimately you are going through pain. You are hurting, right? You are the one who's in an isolated state, right? That you feel no one can hear your voice. The only way to do that is the few steps that I've shared with you is, inshallah ta'ala, to try to walk down that path, inshallah.
No problem. Next question we have is Brother Farhan, who's tuned in today. Thank you, Brother Farhan, and all of our viewers today. Thank you for being a part of this show. It says, based on what you've said regarding human nature, should we, to some extent, expose our children to the realities and temptations of this life, and through that exposure, guide them through? I think it's a very good question, a very good point.
Very good question.
You said that, look, trust them. So basically, when you're saying trust them, are you saying like leave them open? They can see that now. You've said trust them. You've not stopped them. You're not got your, like some fathers, they probably are like, surveillance on their children and everything. Like, where is they got GPS tracking and all this, right? But are you saying, look, let them go and come back? Whatever they did, but trusting them, and that you impart what you feel is right to them. You give them the morals and the characteristics that they need, and then trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's part of it as well, isn't it? Trust your children, but trust in Allah Almighty that will protect your children. So do we expose them to that? Like, should we, what do you say regarding this question?
Look, everything is based on education, right? Now, education of what? If you're not going to share this with them, they're going to get that from the next person. They get it from school. They get it from their friends. There are people who have handheld devices in school and etc. There are children at the age of 7 and 8 that are exposed to very extreme pornography. Very extreme pornography. They've already seen it. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know what the hell that is, but it has left a mark. Now, what I'm not saying, dabbe sare khol chhod hota hai, sare dubo chhod which. No. Education doesn't work like that. What education is awareness. Awareness of what's going on. Especially in the society. You are Ibn Sina, Ibn Khaldun, Al-Farabi, all of these individuals who talk about education and learning, they talk about creating a upright, functioning in the citizen and person in society who is mentally, physically, spiritually ready to deal with the world. And how do you do that? The first route is embedding good values, embedding human values, embedding empathy, embedding sense of pain and understanding of the creatures and responsibility towards them. And very important, respect for themselves.
Yes.
If you don't embed respect for themselves, then they will be taken for a bit of a ride by everybody. Because that's
dignity,
dignity, confidence with themselves.
Self-confidence, exactly.
Yeah. So when we talk about, it's about exposure to what? Not to the world. It's about teaching, learning. All right, telling them
And
not the
by the way,
whole
just to clarify here, we're not saying teaching, learning, get a pen and paper out. We're not saying teaching, learning, lecture them. We're not saying teaching, learning, sit down and, be a formal. Teaching here is imparting education. Tarbiyah is the word I think you would
informal.
take this. Yeah,
Yeah, tarbiyah
tarbiyah is
is
any form of nurturing, any form of empowering, guiding, giving a moral lesson, storytelling. You don't have to even tell them you're teaching them. You can just tell them a story, and through telling the
yes,
story, you can impart morals. You can just play with them, and you can just do go on a walk with them. And in that walk, you can say a few words that might have more impact than sitting and lecturing them for an hour. Because in the walk, you're feeling good, you're talking, you're enjoying yourself, and then you throw a few words in, a few pieces of advice, that could have much more impact. So I think what I've really taken from you, Shaykh Imran, today, is we just need to spend more time, value, what do they call this? What do they call this word? It's called value time. What is it called? More time with our children, more time of actual, purpose. Allahumma salli sayyidina Muhammad. More time where we actually are thinking about their well-being and nurturing them, and not just
quality time.
Quality time is the word. Value, quality, similar words. So definitely we need more quality time. The more quality time, and that's a beautiful word in itself. The more quality time, the more quality. So the more you want for your children, give them more time.
And one more thing, and if I share this, the amazing thing is, any information that you're going to part, your child will have already asked you a question.
Yes.
That number of questions my daughter asks me, I'm like, okay, interesting. What do I say now? But then it's up to me to at least share that information accordingly.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It is. It is simply as that. So
you
sometimes
may not, sorry, go ahead.
You may not instigate it. It's your child will instigate it.
Yeah. That's important.
And that's also important.
You've got to be ready for that. Not dismiss it as well. Be ready for that.
Yeah, of course.
I was going to actually mention this, that, something for the ladies. So the question came up from Sister Shahida here. May Allah bless her and all of our viewers today. Thank you all. Advice for single parent mum of 3 teenagers and their friendships. I don't know if it's boys or girls she has, but Allahu Alam. And I think this is a good point to finish on as well.
Yes.
Because we've talked, we haven't made it all father son. I actually had daughters in mind, mothers, and everything in mind. I think it applies in all directions. So mothers should be taking this advice, fathers should, even youth amongst themselves, even you helping somebody older than you. You never know how the advice you take or the things you learn or pick up, who they can help. But obviously, this is a specific relationship, which I think is a very important one. And with this regard, I don't know, like I said, if it's boys she's got, but I wanted to mention a point. I wanted to bring it up some point during today. I didn't get a chance. But I was reading about, and this is again something you will have, and I always say, but you will have a lot of insight into this, is about young males, especially the alpha males, strong, dominant, and having just a lady, so female teachers at school cannot control boys anymore. There's certain boys that are very dominant, very powerful, and the teachers are actually intimidated by them, right? And they don't know what to do. So what advice would you give to that situation and to this situation as well? And what is your understanding of that? That do boys and young men, let's say, need men to guide them and men to nurture them? They need a mother. Not some dismissal of the mother. The mother is always very important. I was actually reading a book. It's called Raising Boys by Stephen Biddulph. I think he's Australian, and he said there's a tradition there in Africa. I'll share this and hand over to you to finish off. They have a tradition in Africa, in some part of Africa, that when a boy reaches, I think, 14 years of age, they take him into and they leave him in a cave. Yeah. And the men all take him. The young boy is his manhood now, right? They put him into a cave and they leave him, they abandon him. He's got to spend the night there himself. They go away and they start howling, making wolf sounds and scaring him and this, that, the other, just to toughen him up. And he then stays there. He comes back to the village as a man. He can't talk to people like normal anymore. He can't be the childish person anymore. He can't play around. He's become a man. This was his ritual. I think these traditions have this, right? His manlyhood, initiation into that's it. Yeah, initiation ceremony, as we'd say, into manhood. And when he comes back, look at this. He has to honor his mother. And how he has to honor his mother is he has to make a sacrifice like an animal, and he has to say, "This is for my mother," and celebrate his mother. And that's when he becomes a man. And I thought, subhanAllah, the primitive, Africans, I don't know what part of Africa he was, but I actually was quite impressed by that tradition of how the community take this boy. It's not the dad or one person.
It is.
They all take him out, and he comes back, and it's the community that celebrates his manhood, and he honors his mother in all of this, in the way he, ends 100%. Up being the kind of person.
This is the same tradition. No, this is the same tradition among the Spartans, of the Greeks. It's the same tradition of the Romans. It's the same tradition of other civilizations that did exactly same thing around the idea of manhood and development and bringing them into a certain stage. This is what adolescence is. This is what teenage is. It is exactly that. What type of influence are they going to have at that particular age? Firstly, I want to say to the beloved sister, my dear sister, congratulations to you. To work hard and bring your children to this particular age. Alhamdulillah, that is an achievement and a half, right? Allah give you strength, Allah give you barakah, bi'Iznillah ta'ala. Never feel that you have not done what was probably required from you. You have done the best, my dear sister. You truly have. Wallah, you have. All right, sometimes that's not said because sometimes people can't see it, or they might not be able to say it to you. That's the first thing. Second thing is, look, you've done the work of amazing work as a mom. You don't need to be, firstly, you don't need to be two parents. You're one parent. But you are a one strong parent in their life. You're a mom. And the beautiful thing about the mom is the mom holds that matriarchal position around the house. You may not see this. Sometimes our teenagers can react. And let me share this with you. This is falsely document and discuss that, teenagers, they reject things, they do this, they do that, they don't want to share with you. You have to understand that's not the real state. The real state is when they come out of adolescence and they become adults. That's the real state. In the teenager state is the transition. So if they're being a bit difficult, or they're being problematic, or they've been not probably engaging you at that level, it's nothing personal to you. Wallahi, it isn't. It's nothing personal to you at all. It is just simply because they are going through a certain transition. They need a space sometime, or they just need mom. And what is mom? A hug, a kiss, a little bit of food. They know that constant is always there. Alhamdulillah. And mashallah, alhamdulillah, if you have brought 3 children to teenage at this age, to this level, you've already achieved mountains. All right, you've climbed mountains, not one Everest, 10 different Everests at the same time in achieving that. So I don't really need to give you advice around this. All I need to say is stay constant and stay patient with them. Okay, don't lose that position of a mom, because you are their mom. And you're going to find once they stabilize through this stage of adolescence and teenage, them are the adults that are your sons and your daughters. That will be their state, inshallah ta'ala. And I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy upon you, make it easy upon your family, makes it easy upon, I hope, bismillah, what we have said, what we have shared has been very clear. It has given, our intention is always to give a broader understanding, something which is more easily adaptable, digestible by the individuals who are listening to us. From myself, alfa shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you to Shaykh Imran. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today, to those who commented, asked questions. We hope you benefited. Make dua for Shaykh Imran, make dua for everyone. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a blessed Ramadan, a blessed end to Ramadan, with our sins forgiven, with our deeds accepted, with our Quran, with our fasting, and hopefully Eid and beyond becomes better for us. Like Shaykh Imran said, these sessions are informal. We want you to benefit. We want you to take just a broad understanding, that's a good word, and fit it into your lives. We're not here to judge anyone. We're not here to tell people what to do or not to do. We just want to share, and hopefully if there's any benefit taken, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Forgive us for any mistakes, any shortcomings. Allah bless you all, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.